And we're on. Himalaya, thanks for being on Fitness and Consciousness.
Thank you, Ryan. Nice to be here.
So you are sitting on a porch in Iowa.
I am. I'm on a summer tour right now. Yes, and this is where we are at this moment.
And you were at, is the Hanuman Festival there?
Yes, it was in Boulder. It is in Boulder, and it happens yearly. And yeah, we were just there, and now we're here, and we're headed to somewhere else in Iowa to teach, and then to Illinois. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you're all over, and so you're teaching yoga classes and giving talks. Is that what you're doing there?
That's a great question, Ryan. And I'm saying that because yoga is an aspect of it, and there's also dance that's an aspect of it. And so those are the physical, what it looks like. And then there's these other exercises that we do that are breakthrough exercises for our mind to break free, for our emotional body to be cleared. And live music is also involved. DTO is on tour as well, and we are both creating an experience. And it's called Transformational Movement. And so if you think about maybe a transformational program that you might have taken that it was like real heady and processy, like, there's like a lot of those. And then you've been to a yoga class where it's like a lot of movement and flow. And then you've been to a dance class. We'll put those all together. Mm-hmm. And you have yourself a real experience. So that's what it is. Yeah. It's not yoga asana alone. It's the whole real purpose of yoga.
Yeah, I've seen some of your videos, and I have a subscription to Gaia, and there's and your videos. I was just looking just a little bit ago. I'd seen them on there before, but a lot of it is that kind of dance stuff instead of just the asanas, is like a lot of people would commonly think. So, what makes you do it that way? Why? What makes you choose that way instead of the more what people think is traditional?
Yeah, well, that way is very linear, and it's very linear is a great way to describe it. But if we were talking about energetics, it's actually very masculine. And the way that I add in a little bit more flowy and round movements, which the dance includes, it really brings in the feminine. So there's this feminine and masculine together practice. And so it's a whole practice, because we can't forget one, right? And we've seen what's happened in the world from forgetting one of those essences, so we're bringing, and I think in like a bigger scope of things right now, the masculine and feminine energies are coming together, and that's actually the healing of the planet that's happening. There is much more, a greater, I don't want to get too into it, but let's just say a greater healing that's happening right now. So the feminine is not walking in front of the masculine is not better than it's coming together equals awesome. Let's balance both in our own bodies. And that's why the practice is yoga and dance and movement, circular movement like that.
So did you start as more the traditional type, or did you start learning yoga and you're like, I just want to move around more, or how did you?
Well, lucky for me, I learned yoga. I learned asana yoga watching my dad do some poses. And then my own personal practice started learning out of a book, but I was in my own living room. So I would pick up some things and sort of do my own thing. And then when I started taking teacher trainings and teaching, I really couldn't ever teach in that way. It just wasn't my gig. It wasn't my feeling. It felt like, in fact, I actually used to call myself a yoga artist versus a yoga teacher, because I would just go into the class and feel what naturally wanted to be created. And that's how it started. It really, the vinyasa flow or the hatha, asana, all of it, it didn't really feel all that appealing to follow a certain way. And I think it's much more intuitive and playful. And I mean, I encourage you to get on your mat tomorrow, and everybody get on your own mat and listen and see what your body actually wants to do. Yes, there's these postures that we're taught and we can keep following them. Awesome. Let that be your guide way to finding what else your body wants to do. It might want to make sounds. I do a lot of sounds in my class, a lot of and wee, all those kind of things, and screaming as well. But your body can tell you. You can allow your body to be your own guide.
Yeah, I think that could be, I think, like the highest level where you're like, yeah, you learn like some stuff. Maybe you learn some fundamentals to get you going, like you're learning chords and scales on a guitar, but you don't just like play chords and scales. You want to end up writing your own stuff and do things your own way. And you travel like all over the world, really, right?
Yeah, I have traveled all over the world. Mainly the last 5 years, I've pretty much been North America, a lot more North America than the rest of the world. But that's coming this end of this year. I'm going to be traveling across the seas and stuff. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more of that again.
And where are you from originally?
I was born in Toronto, Canada, and I live in Los Angeles now.
Okay. And so you said you you saw your dad doing stuff. Was he a teacher, or was he just doing his own thing too, or?
Yeah, he was brought up in India. So in India, they taught a little bit of yoga asana as well in school. So he learned in school. So he did very little postures. Like he didn't do what we do in the West, right? We would do like this whole thing, like an hour long. He would come home from work and he would do a headstand, and he would do some breathing practices. And his big practice was meditation. So all of the things that he did to prepare his body, and he would do exercises in the morning, like really pump up the body, and then he would sit in meditation and sing devotionally, or just sit and be with God, what he said, that was his practice. So I grew up watching him and being certainly encouraged in that direction, mainly because I didn't do very well in school. So he was always like, okay, you need to study, you need to do good in your exams, so go and sit in meditation and go and do these things. So that's sort of the why he, influenced me. But at that time, it was very simple.
So what does he think about your doing things your own way, adding all the noises and the moving around instead of just
yeah, that's a good question. I will ask him, actually. I'm going to be heading there in a couple of weeks. I don't think I've ever asked him what he thought of it, so I'll have to get back to you. I can comment wherever you post this and share a little bit more. But he's proud of me, I think, in general, for teaching an ancient practice from India, and I don't think he would have ever imagined that I would, for who I was, and a creative person, and really on an adventure to seek who I truly was. And that was really my main thing. But that's really what truly yoga is, right? Constantly removing the things that we're not to find out who we truly are. And so it was natural that I would find yoga as a pathway to bring me home.
Yeah, that does make sense. So he's not in India? He's in Canada? He's
in Canada, yeah, southern Ontario.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's never told you what he thought about all your, because I would think he'd be.
Not about the sound so much. I mean, really, one time I was practicing in one of the rooms in their home, and I was listening to some chants at that time, some devotional chants that were playing. He just popped his head in and he goes, "Oh, I like what you're playing," and then he closed the door.
Oh, cool.
But I think he would probably think it's a bit weird. Yeah. I don't think he would think it was normal. I think he would think it was weird. But it would be perfectly in alignment with who he thinks I am. So
yeah, I would imagine it's all, because it seems like it's I haven't known about you for a long time, but it seems like it's just a natural thing. This is what you're doing. It's not like you're not like just making up something to be different. It's like just how you express your yoga, and that's what it is. And it seems to resonate with people. That's why you're, I guess, asked to go travel all over and show people. So you're, it was called like I had it written down here. It was like Transformation Facilitator or something like that. Was that how you put it?
Yes.
So like, what do you mean by that?
Well, what's been occurring as I teach is much more of an experience of being a motivational teacher, motivational speaker with the movement aspect of yoga and dance, like I said. But the whole experience is a transformation for each individual and then the whole that has come together. So whether that means it's 10 of us, 20 of us in a room versus 300 people, just like we had at Lightning in a Bottle in one of our experiences there, it is a transformational experience. And I am facilitating that. I'm weaving that. I'm part of it and I'm weaving it. And I just started using that to describe what I do in the last 5 years, because it was so hard for me to say I'm a yoga teacher. And even the people that were hiring me, they were like, you're not a yoga teacher. And I was like, I know, but I am at the same time, because the true essence of yoga is transformation. It's, absolutely. But what we in the West have called yoga teachers is asana teachers. Mm-hmm. They're teaching asana practice. And that's not necessarily what I'm doing. I am teaching, I may lead with there might be some asana in the class, but that's not the essence. If you're coming for a vinyasa flow, get your asana on, my class will not be good for you. But if you're looking to awaken something, if you feel blocked in your life, if you feel like I am just not myself, I am like, there's some depression going on or anxiety, I just don't know how to clear it, or I can't step into who I truly am in the world, then come to my experience, because you will have a shift. 100%. You will have a transformational shift for you in the moment that you are, and then take you into the next phase of your life. 100%. That is the through line of the people who share their experience after they have it, and the testimonials that we've gotten on camera and written and text and all that stuff. The through line has been transformational. And so that's why I started using that. It is a bold statement, and obviously a little bit harder to understand if you needed to ask about it, but I appreciate that you asked about it, because it is not something that I've seen a lot out there. So
yeah, it makes sense to me then. It seems like there's a different, you're talking about how it's commonly practiced in the West, the asana teachers, but it seems like there's the winds are changing now, because it's not just the teachers doing what is commonly thought, like you go get the yoga book and then you go the warrior ones and twos and the throwing a hand balance and the headstand, and like this kind of like fits in a box, and then you're showing that it doesn't have to fit in a box, that you actually, and you say come to my experience instead of you didn't say come to my class or come to my workshop, you said come to my experience. And that when people say like that, it kind of reminds me of Jimi Hendrix. Like the band was the Jimi Hendrix Experience, not the Jimi Hendrix Band. It's you're coming here. This is different. And so there was like, if he was trying to fit his guitar playing into a box, then nobody would care who Jimi Hendrix is. But he was like, I like all this old stuff, but check this out, I got something different. And then everything is, the guitar has changed since then, how people, what can it do? And so it seems like the winds of like the yoga are changing, because there's like some of them, like these more what they were calling as traditional practices, Ashtanga and different things are leading to a lot of injuries. And so are you, when you're teaching, and people are like, are they expecting this, like the yoga from the box kind of thing? And then I imagine like once they're there, they're having fun, but then they're like, this isn't yoga, or like, why are we doing this stuff? This isn't in the yoga book, or this isn't what Patanjali was talking about, or whatever.
That's great, Ryan. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing the Jimi Hendrix experience into this conversation, because this is so true. It's completely exactly in alignment with that. And that's why I use the word experience. And when people walk into my experience, I will say, first off, if you're looking for a yoga class or vinyasa class, we're not going to have that here. Mm-hmm. We're going for this. If you want to break free of any limitations that are in your mind, your body, your spirit, your emotions that are holding you back right now, of really having massive expansion in perhaps your relationships, your work life, your personal adventure life, any of that, those places, then this is what we're going to do today. And it's going to look weird. It's going to look strange. It's going to feel weird. But if you are, you come here for a reason. So I will do the whole introduction like that so they understand. And then their next piece is commitment. You're committing to this. Let's go for it. You can decide afterwards if this is something that you would ever do again. But in this moment, really try it on and go for it. Not just try it on, do it, be it, become it. And then you can decide if this was an experience that was great for you and benefited your life, or if it, I'm going, I want to go do a yoga class or whatever again. Like, of course you will. Like, I still go to yoga classes too, like the asana classes. It's not like it's more for, it's for them to know that it's not necessarily the same thing. And so I set it up. Mm-hmm. I set it up so they know.
Yeah. So I see like in your bio, you talk about like empowering women, but imagine there's dudes that come to your class too. And maybe like women are more, they might feel like less embarrassed about dancing around and like being free. And then you met like these dudes that are expecting like, here's this like physical practice that we do for, and then now you're wanting them to move their hips around and stuff. And does it take a while for them to like kind of like come out of the shell? And
no, I use this analogy or this actually comparison to Bollywood movies. Have you ever seen a Bollywood movie?
Not all of one, so but I know I've seen some, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So it's a song and dance is usually musical. So song and dance, and you dance and sing and play, and men and women both do it. So I kind of put them in the setting of that, and the guys get into it. Man, it's sexy. Like, I mean, when guys just like get into their bodies like that and actually get into their hips, because naturally I believe that men have a disconnection sort of from the waist down to the waist up. There's a little disconnection. So as soon as you dance and move your hips, it opens the flow of connection, and the guy becomes this hunky guy versus a little disconnected, because you guys are taught, unfortunately, like you're taught to hold it together a little bit more, right? But as soon as you let go of that, oh man, there's a receptivity, there's an openness, and energetically a flow that can happen. So yeah, they kind of might be a little bit like this at the beginning, and then all of a sudden they're just like, oh, okay, this is fun, I can do this. It's super simple. That's the thing about the Indian dance that I include, Bhangra. It's the Indian hip hop, I call it. It's anyone can do it. It's not hard. It's not a choreography. You can run wild with it. You learn a couple of moves and you can run wild with it. You can go to an Indian party or an Indian wedding or something, and the Indian people will be like, oh yes, very good dancing, very good. Like, because it's like you just learn to do this,
And I see you keep like motioning like up and down, like the energy. So do you like get into like the Kundalini? Is it real kind of? Do you talk about that as a real thing, or just a mental concept, or what's your view on that?
Yeah, that's a deeper conversation, and I bring that into much more of my women's work, because women are naturally understand about that. And if we were doing a longer training or a deeper dive of, an immersion, then yeah, I'll start talking about Kundalini and sharing more about what it really is and how to maneuver it for our benefit and our healing. Yeah. So I will get into that a little bit more if we have more time, but in the classes, of course, like if I'm just doing an experience at a festival, it's like an hour and 15. You can't really get into the specifics of those kinds of energetics. Like that's a deeper advanced practice or understanding in yoga, as you know.
Yeah. So, if we could get into like a little bit, if you give like kind of like the framework of what you're talking about. So if I'm kind of like reading into what you're saying is like, if you're wanting to activate Kundalini or raise it or whatever you want to, however you want to put it, maybe you can put it into ways like, because I don't have my exact question thought out yet, but to me it's like, okay, I can feel like, the microcosmic orbit, like the Taoist thing. I can feel that. I can use that for different things that it's supposed to be used for. And so I know that it's real, and I don't know how much I want to bring up. Sometimes I'll talk about it, but like for we'll say like sexual vitality or some, I'll kind of leave it at that. So, and I can feel that, and I can feel it going around. But then I wondered, so then I'm reading about Kundalini and like doing some like Kundalini practices, and then I'm wondering like, what is that the same thing or is that a different thing? Because I kind of like wonder.
It's similar. It's a really great question, Ryan. Like truly, I can see that you're a seeker and that you have this natural desire to enhance your energetic body as well as your physical body in this lifetime. So it's a beautiful quality. I just really want to honor you for your practices. It's beautiful. Kundalini is tangible like that because you've experienced that microcosmic orbit of energy and you can visualize it, you can feel it. Kundalini does have that same thing, and that's what happens in the experiences in my classes. We are awakening Kundalini, and we are also learning how to move that through our bodies and have it circulate. And again, this comes in more advanced practices. And there's one thing that I will say that needs to be a number one key piece to this. Kundalini can move really easy. It's actually not a hard thing to awaken Kundalini and to start moving it in the body. The challenge and the practice is to contain it for your betterment, for your higher consciousness, for the opening to take you into much more like a deeper listening, a deeper guidance, a deeper connection with yourself, with source, with others. And so that's where I go with it. When I'm teaching it, it's like an awakening of it is the easy part. And here's the tricky part. In the West, we want everything. We want it now, and we want instant gratification. Kundalini can give you that, but you'll blow it out. And you can blow it out as in like you can just keep running with Kundalini, but it's like quickly blowing it if you're not creating a container for your betterment. You can either cause a lot of anxiety because the energy will be running so quickly, or you will just lose it really fast because it's just going out, So when you learn how to direct it and move it through your system and hold it in a container, then you have deep purpose. Your mission is like, you are focused, driven, passionate, inspired. Did I lose you?
I can still hear you and just fine.
Okay.
Can you still hear me? Or?
Perfect.
Yeah, your video was kind of off for just a second, but it's good.
So that's all I had to say around that right now. Do you have?
Can you
Okay, great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense with kind of like a long story short, but when I had something happen that's like I started like a Zen meditation when I was like under a teacher when I was 18 and learned the microcosmic orbit that way. And then it was kind of like later on that I learned what all you could do with it. But then about like 6 years ago or so, I was, I think your microphone muted.
I did that on purpose so that
Okay.
any external noises won't affect the video. Sometimes it happens.
Okay, I see. So about like 6 years ago, it's kind of weird, but I met someone that I think she was like maybe a bodhisattva or something like that. Like it was this, like her earth story, I call it. Like I met her, I used to drive a cab in Indianapolis here. And I was, I started picking her up and I would see her like, pretty much every day I would take her to work, like to and from work. And like her earth story, I call it, was like she was from India and she came here, and it was like she was, it was like she knew everything about spirituality, but in a very like easy way. She didn't like preach or anything. And it was like she was just kind of like perfect. It was strange. And like I kept reading in these like Qigong books because I practiced Qigong. I kept reading that like if you want to get to these higher levels, you can't drink anymore, no more alcohol at all. And I would like smoke a bit of weed just sometimes also. And so like there was this day where I decided, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to quit drinking everything and see like what happens. And it was like it ended up being, well, so I went home, and then like the next day my energy just like exploded. Like I was normally like a pretty calm. I don't really talk fast and maybe not say a lot. I could kind of like hang out with a bunch of people and not really say very much. But then this thing happened, and I was just like blah 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 blah, just like talking and talking and talking and just super hyper, and my energy was just on fire, and I couldn't really sleep, and I couldn't eat. I didn't eat anything at all for like 5 days. And then like on the 6th day, I was at a movie with my son, and I had like just a few pieces of popcorn, and that was it. But I didn't eat anything for like 5-6 days. But I was drinking like a lot of kefir. I was drinking like 4 bottles of kefir a day, and just the fire was just, it was really weird. And then I started eating again, and then I was able to kind of contain it, as you were saying. And that was the last time I ever saw her. So like the day that I quit drinking and everything was the last day I ever heard from her. And I don't know if you've ever seen the show Touched by an Angel, but it's basically like this TV show where like there's these angels, and they'll come to somebody's town for just long enough to turn the dial on them. So they have some kind of problem. They need to make some kind of change. The angels show up, and they're just acting like regular people. They turn that little thing in that person's life, and then they're gone. They're off to the next one. And that's what it was like. And kind of like looking back, like the more I looked back on it, the weirder it was. But like, then I read about like these like Kundalini awakenings, and I was already familiar with the microcosmic orbit and could feel it, but like this thing seemed different. And so is this the kind of energy? Does that like what it sounds like to you? Is like something was like activated and it's containing? I was having trouble containing it, or like what does that?
It sounds like it could be, and it also could be. So when you have these substances that we're using to as a regular kind of thing, what happens is you dull down and you distract what really wants to be moved and processed and healed. Mm-hmm. So because you decided that, it could have been your system going bleh, like really like bleh, like all the mental blah and all the mental diarrhea, as they say, and like barfing out all of the stuff, the debris that was stuck in your system, especially because you were doing energetic practices.
Mm-hmm.
So the Kundalini could have been like just spitting out this stuff. And so your system had like a real, like, you know, almost like a, you know, like a robot or a system that's like trying to figure itself out. That's what it sounds like to me, is something like that could have happened. And then usually when you're in the presence of someone who has devoted their life to the practice and to, especially if they are bodhisattva, like, I mean, they really have a high amount of Kundalini Shakti, and then just by touching you energetically, it doesn't even have to be physical, it could just really like, you know, like really cause an eruption, clearing, clarity, all of that. That's what it sounds like to me when you had that experience.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it was really weird and it hasn't happened since. And not like that. I mean, I can like feel different stuff at different times. Like I can feel the microcosmic orbit like pretty much whenever I want and use it. So it doesn't work 100% of the time, but like 95% of the time is whatever I want to do with it.
Yeah.
And so,
well, you're guiding that too, right? So the microcosmic orbit is something that you are also a little bit more in guidance of, right? Because of the way the Taoist, the teaching happens. So yeah, the Kundalini is a little different, right? But we want to learn how to do the same thing with the Kundalini, is like bring it up through the system and then have it touch. There's a whole other advanced practice, but touch Shiva. So then they unite and then it circulates. And again, circulates. And you create that kind of a thing. But we're not taught that with Kundalini normally. So the Taoists have the system down real nice. They've written it down in that way on how to use it. There are several books written on Kundalini. I find them a little hard to understand, some of them, because of the masculine point of view. So, yeah, there are some more books that have come out now that are much more feminine. But anyway, like that's a whole side of the story. Does that make sense though for you?
Yeah, I think so. And even like when I'm doing the microcosmic orbit, I feel like kind of like come up and then it like stops and then it kind of like dissipates. I don't feel it so well when it's coming down the front, but it's like I can like has that stop. And when my jiu-jitsu teacher, he's like about like 70 from Korea, real traditional. He would kind of explain it like that, like it comes up around, it stops, and then it goes back down. And like I can like feel it real clear. And then, so like you were saying, like meets like Shakti and you're like pointing there. Then I kind of wondered like, I always kind of like wondered that. And I didn't really have anyone to ask, like what's the actual difference, or they have like a similarity. So you're familiar with both systems and there is a difference. And like, do you like in your own practice, or are you trying to do like both? Or are you like open, or you like don't try for things anymore? Like what's your, like, what do you
that's a great question. Yeah, you know, I don't do a lot of currently, you know, I go through different phases, but currently I am not using I mean, I don't think I've ever used Kundalini to like what they say manifest things, or to like I've always used it within my own system to heal, break free of my own inner blocks and my limitations. So currently I'm using my own practice, which really stirs and wakes up the Kundalini, and I am definitely going through another like layer of, let's say, lineage, that like my lineage that really affects my belief system and hasn't let me go forward in certain areas of my life, and relationship is one of those areas. So I'm using it to really break up that old and bring me into my most evolved spirit, soul experience in this lifetime now. So that means that there's a little bit more work on the Kundalini. Like I did a 2-hour practice yesterday morning where I was like, it looked like this. I started out dancing in the living room, like really dancing, like I'm talking, you know, twerking and all that, like what was going out. And then I was like, I need to go run or something, like there's some strong energy right now. And I went to this park, and it was really early in the morning. Everybody else was sleeping here. And I went and I did like 100 jumping jacks with my legs coming up. I did like, you know, all sorts of stuff. It was just the thing. And I did push-ups, and I was doing sun salutations, not very many of those, but just like everything else. And then running on the spot really fast. And I did like 2 hours, and I just listened and followed and did. Like there was no rhyme or reason, except I could feel the buildup of anxiety in my system. And I was like, okay, you know, with the breath and all of that. Cause I couldn't get out of the mental realm. So I knew what to do. Like the body knew what to do. And I was like, okay, I let you take over, because this mind is tricking me right now. So that's what it looked like. And then I did the container piece. So Kundalini came in and like broke everything up and shifted everything. And I felt it when I was like, okay, I got there. And then I went and lied down, and I had this Shavasana that felt like 2 hours. It was 10 minutes. Oh. It felt like everything just went boom. And I woke up from that uber peaceful, like so peaceful, connected. And I've still been feeling that today. And that was yesterday morning. So sometimes she's calling us further. And that's for our evolution. So there's pieces to it that I teach in my, experiences, like let her come through, let her wake you up, follow, listen, be guided, and then contain, integrate. That's really what that is. Contain and integrate. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's believable. Like I believe you. And there's like some, like when I'd like get like the Kundalini yoga videos, or like read some stuff, Yogi Bhajan and this kind of thing. It's like, I don't believe him. I don't know why I don't, but I don't know if holding my arms up for 15 minutes is going to really do anything for me besides fatigue my shoulders. What does that have to do? Or am I wrong? Is there something about holding the arms up? Because for some reason that's like a thing.
When he downloaded that information, when it came through, it might have been like some real strong energy at that time. That's the thing with with teachers that have left their bodies. There's no way of knowing if it's relevant right now in this moment, if it was forever, or if it might just not be your practice also, right? So there's a few different things. I hate to say this, but I'm wondering logistically, how long are we going to be going? Because I thought we were going to just go for half an hour, but I'm wondering if we had.
We can. How much more time do you have? Or when would you?
Well, did you say no? I want to honor what you said. Did you say half an hour? Or did you say longer?
I said about an hour, but if you need to get going,
you did. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I totally thought it was a half an hour, and I do want to say goodbye to somebody who's leaving pretty soon, but I can hit pause here.
If you want me to hit pause or anything, I'm not in a hurry. So if you want me to hit pause, just tell me to hit pause, and I can wait for you for a minute.
Yeah, maybe if we could pause, that would be awesome, because then I can make sure that I don't miss the opportunity.
Okay, we're back on. So you were talking about Yogi Bhajan. Maybe it was right for him at the moment, maybe not. A practice for everybody. And
yeah, I think there's no way of knowing, like when the information is coming through, because a lot of the times it's channeled, it's coming from another realm that's more advanced, and some deities or some devis or devas that are downloading information for the betterment of the planet at the time that we're in, right? So he certainly brought through many different beautiful breakthrough exercises and kriyas, they call them, right? There are these like different things that you're doing, and it's funny. I went to a white tantra experience where you have 3-4 days at a Yogi Bhajan event with a Kundalini yoga, they call it, and it's funny, when I was doing one of the exercises, I was like, if anybody was looking at us from another planet, like, would they, I was like, wait, would they be like, hey, you stole that from us? Or like, that's just, what is that? So we don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff that I do in my classes too that nobody's commented, but they go with it. So.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it's written about, because it's all, things are digital now. People can see you 100 years from now easily, and as long as the world keeps going, or a couple 100 years. So it'd be interesting to see what people will look back at. Oh, this is what she's talking about, Kundalini, and there's this other guy, Yogi Bhajan, but it's different, and it's just kind of interesting. It's kind of the way I think about it is, like, if that isn't the way, then did I just waste an hour and a half doing something silly? But it's like, if we're doing like things like more your way, even if somebody says, oh, that's not real how you activate Kundalini, but at least you're moving around. It's good like for your joints, and it's good to make more fluid. And so it's not like, even if it's not that, then it's still like a good practice. So like sometimes I think like these yoga practices, or like, even if it's not some like the more higher level stuff isn't true, then at least like it's a good physical practice. I moved my body around. I was stretching and doing strength stuff and balance. And so it's kind of a matter of like, when you start looking at like, who do I believe in this thing? Because there's like books and books. I have probably like 50 books from the library. And so it's kind of like, where do you believe? Because not everybody is saying, not everybody agrees on like what it is. Not everybody agrees like what the chakras are. Not everybody agrees like, so it's just kind of, trying to figure out who do you believe, who resonates with you. So like, where are you, I know you got to start wrapping it up here in a minute. So like, what were like your inspirations besides like seeing your dad? Like what books did you like that, or like what other instructors did you like learning from that?
The Heart of Yoga is one of my favorites, Jessica Char. Yeah. His father, Krishnamacharya, thank you. Beautiful, real depthful bhakti yoga asana teacher, like really embodying it. So that's like one of my first places where I had already learned some from different, the asana book that I learned from was actually, I found out years ago later, that was an Iyengar book. I didn't even know. But in the Iyengar book, there was like an 8-week course that you could put yourself through asana. And that's where I started. And then I met my spiritual teacher, Jeffrey Armstrong, Kavindra Rishi. He lives in Vancouver, Canada. And he was teaching the philosophy of yoga and the Vedas and how to live a lifestyle like that. And so he's my main teacher. And then of course, Shiva Ray, before I moved to LA, I met her, and she's been an absolute inspiration of the bringing in the dance and, yoga together. So many asana teachers along the way, tantra teachers along the way. And I'm so grateful that we have this time of these incredible, courageous people standing up and teaching. So those are some of my top influences in my work. I hope I'm not forgetting somebody like really important. I'm sure I am. There's so many. If I started listing, it would, it'd take me a long time, but yeah.
Yeah, I like seeing people kind of like break free from what other people are calling tradition and like do their own thing. Because even that stuff a long time ago was made up by somebody. And yeah, it might have been channeled and maybe this is like real spiritual stuff, but this is like 1,000 years from now, this is 1,000 years ago. So the people that are here now that can be, that are feeling free to do their own thing, I think will have some just as valuable to pass on. So comparing you to even like some of the big names that you mentioned, like you can be mentioned right along with them and have that be like real. It's not like just made up. Oh, I teach exactly like this guy or this woman or something like that. So I will. I know you're having to get going here. I really appreciate you coming on. It was really cool talking to you, and you have an open invitation to come on again if there's anything that you forgot to mention or you wanted to get into that we didn't have time for. Then just send me a message. You know how to get a hold of me. So how do people get a hold of you? How do they find out where your workshops are, where your experiences are?
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for hosting and really holding this conversation, having these conversations, and having this conversation with me today is really powerful. So I appreciate it. My website is Hemalayaa.com, and it's spelled HEMALAYAA.com. You can go there and watch videos, and my main annual event that happens is called EMBODY. It's for women. Happens every year at the end of September in Southern California, and that's a really very special event for what's happening right now, the rise of women and the expansion of that. And there's some powerhouses that are going to be leading, as well as myself, leading our day. It's a day long, so come on down for the whole weekend. We can have some extra fun, but it's a full day experience where you get awakened, set into the pleasure zone of your, what you want to create in the world, your center, your power, like really igniting that, and then stepping into spiritual integrity, which means you really walking in the world with your fullness, your radiance, that, that bigness that you are. So yeah, that's called EMBODY. Again, it's on my website as well. And yeah, keep on doing the practice, keep on doing the breath, keep on doing what it takes to arrive again and again and again. And no matter where you are as a teacher or a student, and I am both. And like I said, yesterday's practice had to be 2 hours because that's what was needed. Mm-hmm. And today's was 10 minutes, so do the practice. Just don't forget about it.
I think that's a good way to end it. Any other last thoughts for anyone?
Let's everybody take a deep breath in together. Deep breath in, deep breath in, deep breath in, and hold the breath at the top of the inhale so much that you feel like you're going to combust, and take more breath in now. Hold. Contract and grab everything, and then exhale out of the mouth, shake the body. Yeah, there we go. That's all.
All right, Hemalayaa, thank you very much. I will stop the recording. I'll talk to you for just a second when I stop recording. Thanks again.